Hello, this is Pestilential coming to you from York County, and I'm here in downtown York City for Articles of Confederation Day here at the Colonial Complex and History Center Museum. So I came here about 2 years ago for this event, so I wanted to see if there was anything new going on. So this year we have again General Washington speaking on 2 occasions, and we also have
they might be putting polyurethane on it, and then you have all the off-gas thing of the chemicals. So all of ours are like sourced, treated. Historically, we do everything in the 18th century, so we're not putting toxics back into the.
So I'm using this smaller hook, this almost perfectly round hook, and this is going to help me kind of hollow out that bowl fairly quickly. But then I will switch over to a more shallow hook, which allows me to put a much nicer surface on the inside of that spoon.
Just because most of their foods that they're eating are stew or soup based, they're not getting the individual courses like the upper class are, and most of the time they're not getting like a flat or sweet liquid meat into the stew to make the stew actually soup. So a spurtle. And spurtle simply means to.
So we have a nice, kind of a slightly more shallow spoon or a knife here.
And it's just dancing in figure eights.
So we're going to use that slightly more shallow spoon, and you can see it's removing all of those ridges, all those gutters that were left behind by the other hooks.
So you are welcome to stay as long as you want. And you
allows me to put a much finer surface on that spoon.
They've been around since the 10th century, and they're more popular today than ever. Nobody knows where they come from originally. You'll find them everywhere from England to Ukraine. The only exception is Ireland and Scotland, because you've got bagpipes that give the same sound, and Norway. Norwegians have an instrument called a nyckelharpa. It's basically a fiddle. This is a key box. I don't know if you guys can see over there. When I push the keys, those little tangents strike the string. It's like your fingers on the neck of a guitar. The nyckelharpa has the same thing, but instead of the wheel, they use a bow. But it's actually very similar sound, except for the buzzy, which is my favorite part. I like the buzzy.
What key is it in?
Pardon?
What key is it in?
Depends on what I'm doing. I can set it up. That bell's really annoying. It's like, bring out the corpse, get the funeral over with, and go away. The setup right now is in G. Okay. I can also set it up into C, but I can also do anything. The French turned it into an art instrument. It was a folk instrument. It starts out in the church, actually, and was 6 to 8 feet long, called an organistrum. And it was shaped very similar to this. It took 2 people to play it. Starts getting smaller and smaller. If you ever see Christmas cards with angels with medieval instruments, like old time, you might see one with, looks like a shoebox in your lap. That's actually one of these. It's called a symphony, 3 strings. Becomes a folk instrument, but then the French, oh, the French. They get a hold of it, and it goes high art. Look at how she goes. I do not sit him. Never get the neck quite right. But it stays very, very high end, and they're doing string quartets with it, and like harpsichords, concerti, and it's a really high end, what we consider a classical instrument. But then no more aristocrats, so it goes back to being a folk instrument. The French consider it their national instrument, but like I said, you'll find them everywhere from England to Russia, and kids right now, they are nuts for them over in Europe. They're all over the place. They're building electronics into them. They're doing, they do jazz and fusion music and every kind of new thing you can think of. It's not just weird guys in funny outfits sitting out here doing historic things. You can also do something with this that they used to call it the beggar's lyre. Poor people would go out on the street corners, and they still do this all over Europe, basically as beggars. A lot of them were blind, and they would do songs, and you would throw money at them, preferably in large quantities. Oh, Polly, dearest Polly, the route has now begun, and we must go a-marching at the beating of the drum. So get yourself all in your best and come along with me. I'll take you to the cruel wars in High Germany. Oh, Willie, dearest Willie, come listen to what I say. My feet, they are so tender, I cannot march away. Beside my dearest Willie, I am with child by thee, not fit for the war, my love, in High Germany. I'll buy for you a horse, my love, and on it you shall ride. And all of my life I will ride there by your side. We'll stop at every alehouse and drink when we are dry. We'll be true to one another and marry by and by. Oh, cursed be these cruel wars that ever they should rise. And note from dear old Ireland, press many a lad likewise. They pressed my true love from me, my Clive, my brother three, and sent them to the cruel wars in High Germany. Friends I do not value, nor my foes I do not fear. And now my love has left me, I wander far and near. And when the baby it is born and smiling on my knee, I'll think of lovely Willie in High Germany. Oh, Polly, dearest Polly, the rout has now begun, and we must go a-marching at the beating of the drum. Go dress yourself all in your best and come along with me. I'll take you to the cruel wars in High Germany.
And of course, the DARs here, Daughters of the American Revolution. So in order to join the membership here, you have to have direct lineage to a Revolutionary War soldier or ancestor. Oh, sorry. Over here we have games that would have been played. So these are some of the games they would have played. See the Jacob's ladder right there, sitting on the front right there. Then they had the hoops, which you push with the stick. Would have kept them entertained for hours. What else do they have? Other stuff. Oh, ball and cup as well. Oh, cup and ball.
That's why it's called and there are so many other people that are in this book. If you love history, this would be a wonderful book to read. You take a picture of the cover. So
She was
we
doing it in
remember.
there, but she wasn't doing it in front of her mommy.
Are you doing the stamp collection?
Yes, you're welcome.
What's Matt?
You're going to disrupt this photo.
Well, we walked in and met Ned right off the bat.
Okay.
Kerrigan.
Oh, you want a stamp? There.
Well, you have to do some of these.
You have to do some of the things.
No, we don't.
So you got persons from the York history here. Then there's the stocks right there. I had a picture of myself taken last year. No, I'm good. So you got the Culper ring. Yeah, talking about the Culper ring. You can do a Culper ring code here.
But you might, so just be
Major
careful.
John Clark.
I see why he's talking.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Oh, wow. So York County just celebrated its 275th last year. It's a little obviously older than the United States, which will be celebrating its 250th next year, July 4th. Oh wow, didn't realize that. That the articles will be celebrating their 250th 2 years from now, today. Yeah, you can enter for a chance to get a membership for them. I did already.
Hi, how are you?
I wanted to ring the bell, but somebody else is ringing it right now.
So let's go inside the courthouse. Oh wow! So I've been here before, so like I said, but there's a lot of more, reenactors right now. So yeah.
And then I said, so then when I printed, this was True Jeopardy. So then I added York.
So I guess he's doing stuff with printing over here, I guess. Oh yeah. They're doing printing. Actual. Oh, sorry. So you can actually print your own.
Turn around, lady over here.
Oh, she printed one of the articles. That's cool.
What Rick is printing over there, I have these that I printed so that we were trying to take with you. Okay, instead of being printed. Now I'm using the typeface that was used back then, and what you think are misspellings are not. We're using the long S. And the long S is used when it ends the word, not inside of the middle. And I brought this along because on July 5th they printed the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah, oh, copy
And
of that.
then he was going to print the front cover, the Articles of Confederation, but Dummy B forgot to bring it. I was so concerned, so I brought my setup. And then here's a Jeopardy question for today.
1776, the Second Continental Car appointed a committee
Okay, did you see
draftees.
Yeah, she got it.
Okay,
Yeah, the articles.
here's where it all starts. The letters are in the type case. Okay? Now, let's just say what's your first name? I'm sorry? Haley. Okay, now we're going to sit your type upside down. So what's the first letter? No, I didn't say backwards. I said upside down. Okay, then what kind of an H do I want to use? There are two types of H's, right? No, two types of H's. Like you're on the computer, you use capital. Haley, I want to tell you what I told my apprentices and everything. If you know what a capital is, go to geography and learn the capitals. What's another name for a capital? Why? Because the capitals were in the uppercase and the small letters were in the lowercase. That's where those terms come
So you get a little bit of history there, why we call them uppercase and lowercase, because the letters, the larger letters were kept in the upper part of the case, and the lower, smaller case letters were kept in the lower case.
Four letters, and you tell me what two letters are missing.
There's an extra. So this is the Club of Lancaster, the the 518 Club, I believe it's called. Oh wow.
I find that I want to hold the pen closer to the end than the ink.
You can actually learn how to write the way they would have. One of the battles that we lost. Well, the Revolutionary Army lost the Battle of Brandywine, as well as the Battle of Germantown. There's a picture of Edward Ned Hector, who's outside somewhere portraying. Showing the articles. Picture of this gentleman here. Hello. So who are you representing?
I'm Benjamin Rumsey. I'm a congressional delegate from Maryland.
Oh, okay. Kind of figured. I thought you probably, because this is where the delegates would have sat.
Yeah. I came from Harford County, just over the state line.
Okay.
It's not far for me to travel to the Congress.
So you would have been one of the delegates that signed the Articles of Confederation?
Yes. So while the articles have been under review and editing for the last year or so, I was appointed by the Maryland Assembly to represent Maryland in 1776 and 77. So I've been here for most of the year. Or actually, I've been in Philadelphia until we were driven out of Philadelphia by the British Army. So we finished up our work on the articles here.
Would have you stopped over in Lancaster?
Yes.
Okay. Just have to make sure before you had to settle over here for the 9 months.
A little bit further, a little more safe for us in New York. I was hoping they would continue going to Baltimore. close to home, but you know, this is close enough.
So Maryland was the first one to ratify it, right?
Maryland's the last one to ratify.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it takes until 1781 for Maryland to ratify it. The big contentious issue is Virginia's western land claim. Virginia was claiming so much land in western reaches. All this stuff was claimed by Virginia. Maryland, being tiny, was afraid of being overpowered in Congress by an enormous state like Virginia. So it wasn't until February of 1781 that Virginia finally gave up and said, okay, we're going to give up our claims to all that land north of the Ohio River, and Maryland immediately ratified the Atlantic Parliament.
Oh, wow. I thought they were the first.
Virginia was actually.
Okay. Good to know. And have it clarified. Okay, thank you. So here, I'm going to snap a picture of the Battle of Brandywine. I'm meaning to get out there to Brandywine, the battlefield at some point. Let's ring the bell and drive people crazy outside. Oh.
George Washington speaking at the
Oh,
right now.
oh, done. Thank you.
As many people were, but compared to what we were used to living with, very different circumstances. My mother also did something very, very unusual for this time. She had myself and 4 younger siblings, all under the age of 11 when my father died. And she, unlike most ladies or women of quality, chose not to remarry. Which is incredibly rare for someone with young children at this time to not remarry. Especially because she now had no natural-born assistant, no patron to guide her children through life. So that meant that I would have to find other avenues of patronage to assist in that growth. Because as someone born to privilege, as a expectation means things that I would have to do because of who I was born to be, or expected to be. Now, because I had older half-brothers, I would not be expected to carry the family name forward, because that would be their job. More than likely they would serve in government. More than likely I would not. However, the problem is, I was the eldest son of my mother's children. So I had the expectations of leading her half of the family, minus any of the financial ability to do so. And a mother who really, really wanted me to do a good job. Really wanted me to do a good job.
They have a pretty place there. But like for the quilt pants and everything,
So she's making looks like a silhouette of the person. So she can do a scissored silhouette. She'll sit you down and just freehand it. I want to see if I get one done.
That you are here to help us celebrate the Articles of Confederation being adopted right here in our great city and county of York, Pennsylvania. I am pleased now to present Central York Middle School Fight and Drum Corps.
fifers and 10 drummers in each regiment. Fifers and drummers were usually boys under the age of 16 because it was not considered good form, even by the English barbarians that they were during the Revolution, to shoot at children. Right? Okay, so they would generally not target fifers and drummers. Once you became 16, generally you traded in your fife for a musket, then you moved into the infantry. These are all children under the age of 16, so trying to maintain that historical connection there. Okay, so we'll talk about our fife first. Fife, so single wood instrument. It's a hollow tube with a cork at one end. It has a lip hole. It has 6 finger holes. It is not, if you're a musician, it's not a fully chromatic instrument. In other words, you cannot play all the notes on the piano on the fife. It does not work like that. It only plays in certain keys. By itself, it sounds a little bit like this. Mason is going to demonstrate. Step forward and play for us. Nice and loud. When they all play together, it sounds a little bit like this. Go ahead. Tap it off. Colonial drums look very different than what we have today. Modern drums, right? A modern drum has all kinds of metal hardware, sometimes made of metal themselves, right? But during the Revolution, it was a one piece of wood that was steamed and made soft and then bent into a cylindrical shape, and then the rims were the same. And it was all tied together with ropes and leather, and underneath was animal intestine, animal gut, which gave it that distinctive rattle of a sound, right? That snare drum was relatively new during the Revolution. Prior to that, drums usually were a little bit larger and they were held higher. The drummer might hold his drum up here, and they generally didn't have that snare, and it was just kind of a hollow sounding drum during the Renaissance and the Baroque. And it wasn't until the early 1700s that they started adding ropes or animal intestine underneath it to give it that rattle. Okay? And the drummer then would learn to play by what today we call them rudiments, or they're simply speech patterns. For example, a flam is 2 strokes played together and sounds like the word flam. Flam. A paradiddle, it's a crazy word. A paradiddle is right, left, left, right, left, left. Sounds like the word paradiddle. Paradiddle, paradiddle. Keep going. Paradiddle, 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 paradiddle. And so you would start to string these patterns together. Flam, tap, paradiddle, paradiddle, flam. And then over time, drummers would be taught multiple of these patterns, and they would start memorizing them, and that's how they would learn to play all of those keys that we just played. So when all of the drums play together, it sounds a little bit like this. Kelvin is our drum major. You have children in high school marching band. The person that conducts the band, the student leader, is often called the drum major. Revolutionary War term, the pipe and drum term, if you will. The drum major was simply that. Highest ranking drummer in the regiment. Remember that a regiment included 10 pipers and 10 drummers. When you had 10 pipers and 10 drummers leading your regiment on a march from, say, York to Lancaster or Lancaster to Philadelphia or wherever, it would have been too loud to have verbal command, kind of like I'm talking. So the drum major used a mace like Kelvin has, hold it up for everybody to see, or a spontoon like Daniel has, hold it up for everybody to see. These were officers' weapons, right? Officers generally didn't get the luxury of carrying a musket. They had a weapon like this that they could use to prod someone into the line, to take their place into that line while the British would be shooting at them, or shooting back at the British. And so they used that mace to give silent commands. For example, turn back around. Kelvin's going to demonstrate how to bring the fights up. Go ahead. And when he wants them to stop playing, show him a halt. So when he brings the mace down, right. So this is what that looks like in action, if you can imagine, on a dirt road going from one town to the next, or one battle to the next, pipes and drums, leading a column of 1,000 soldiers. Go ahead.
Pipes and drums, running the well. Drive it off. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, the pipes and drums control all the activities in camp. So for example, you're digging a ditch and you run out of water in your canteen and you're really thirsty because it's 100 degrees and you're in a wool uniform, right? And so you all need water, okay? And so someone calls to the drummer and says, sound the call, go for water. Now I'm going to teach you all this command. Ready? Here we go. So it goes, go. Everybody tap your right hand, go, left hand, pour, then two hands really fast, water. Got it? Ready, set, go. Go for water. Alex, play go for water 3 times. Go for water. Go for water. Go for water. When you heard that, you would probably take your ditch, run across to the creek, fill it up, and you wouldn't be thirsty anymore, right? Yeah, okay, sure. If you want to drink out of the creek. Okay, right? Go for water. Every day at 6 a.m., a pipe and a drummer were trying to wake up before the rest of the camp and then beat the alarm clock for the rest of the camp, the rest of your company. Alex and Finn, would you demonstrate, please? Drummer's call. Go ahead, drummer. Alex and Finn. That one fifer and drummer would come out in the morning and they would play that for their group of probably 18 tents, because a single tent would house 6 soldiers. right? And so 18 times 6, I think that's close to 100. I don't know. I don't teach math, so anyway. So that fifer and drummer would sound the drummer's call, and then the next 18 tenths down the street, they're fifers and drummers. So you can imagine throughout that entire regiment, hearing that tune over and over and over and over and over until everyone was awake and outside. Then the next tune you might hear would be breakfast call or reveille or something to that effect. And so throughout the course of the day, when you would hear go for water or dinner call, the roast beef of Old England, or whatever would be your signal to do those activities. Go to dinner, go to wherever it was, go to bed at night, okay? And the same on the battlefield. The fifers and drummers had similar calls. It was important as the soldiers to know what all of those fife and drum calls were. Advance, take, make ready, take aim, fire, fifes and drums controlled all of that action being next to General Washington or whoever the commander of that regiment and company on the field was. And so they were very well protected. Lastly, the fifes and drums had the job of entertaining the troops, okay, and leading them into battle. So we're going to play 2 songs, and we're going to finish up with these 2 songs. The first one is called Chester. It was written by William Billings, patriot from Boston. The first words of it can still be found in most church hymnals. The first words are, "Let tyrants shake their iron rod, and slavery clank its galling chains." And then it goes on to say that we trust in God, New England's God, forever reigns. So in the minds of our forefathers, in the minds of these soldiers, they were fighting a righteous cause of liberty. And they would sing that song as they marched into battle, steeling their nerves to face the most powerful military in the world at that time. And then the second tune we're going to play after Chester is arguably the most famous tune in the American Revolution, Yankee Doodle. Everybody's heard Yankee Doodle, right? There's over 100 verses to Yankee Doodle. We are not going to play Yankee Doodle. However, we'll play just one time through, but I want you to think about the words. We've all heard them before. Yankee Doodle went to town riding on a pony, stuck a feather in his hat, and called it macaroni. Okay, so the deeper, darker meaning to all of those words. The Yankee in the vernacular today was someone who could not read or write, was an uneducated person, a person of a lower class for stature according to the British, not someone to be feared or reckoned with. A Yankee. A doodle was a poor farmer that did not own his own land and had to work that land for somewhere else. So literally, a Yankee Doodle was a poor, stupid farmer in the minds of the British. Pretty much everybody in America at that point in time. Okay? Yankee Doodle went to town riding on a pony. The pony was a child's horse. No self-respecting adult would ever be caught riding a child's horse. Okay? And lastly, stuck a feather in his hat and called it macaroni. Macaroni was a slang term that meant someone that dressed too fancy for their station in life. But not only that, remember that a Yankee was someone that could not read or write. So having a feather in your hat was not only a decoration, but also a status symbol that said, I am a literate person. I know how to write because I have a feather. Remember that a feather was the equivalent of a pen, right, during the American Revolution. So sticking a feather in our hat, okay, didn't change our status in life according to the British. But we all know how the story ends, right? There's the flag. We all know how it ends, and we're all standing here today in continuing pursuit of liberty. So, ready? Chester and Yankee Doodle, thank you all for being an outstanding audience from Central York Middle School. Fighting from Chester and Yankee Doodle.
Fighting on that day! Chester! Drive it off!
Huzzah! Huzzah! Huzzah!
Fighting drums, parade, back! Fighting drums, this is